Okay, so this is a really fun project that I took on. This was for a employee of mine who was gifting it to another employee, and she just basically gave me some ideas and ran with it from there. This is a 3D print. This is Goku Ultra Instinct from Dragonball Z. The first two prints, yeah, you can see right there, they failed. The supports, I had everything the way it was supposed to be, the way they tell you to. Extra supports, 45-degree angles, and they both failed like that. So instead of doing, yeah, right there, instead of doing it like that, I just put it straight up on the build plate. Third time was the charm. And I actually told her that, you know what, if this third one doesn't print, I might have to abandon this because I'm sure I'm doing everything I should be doing. So but yeah, the third one did print correctly, and yeah, there he is after cleanup and curing and just a base coat there. So all right, let's get on to some painting. Okay, so coming in with the skin, I always start my skin tones with Citadel Colors Bugman's Glow. It's a little bit darker, but then what you do is you basically just bring it up using other highlights. So there he is right there. This is a very thin down first coat. I will go in with a second coat after this dries, and after that, then I'll start adding some different colors. The other paints that I use, yeah, I'm just looking at this right now. The other paints I use are primarily the Citadel contrast paints. Normally I don't use those for base coating, but I just wanted to give them a try, and yeah, it, in my eyes, it works out. So, but you can see right there, the first coat is rather choppy, but like I said, it's a little on the thin side. So after that dried, I went ahead and put a second coat on there. And you don't need to be really neat about this. A lot of those splotches on his jumpsuit there, those get covered up with a white, just to make it easier for the contrast colors to go on. Okay, so this is the second coat. Just getting those areas cleaned up so it's not so choppy. Now I'm not a huge anime person. The only anime I've ever really known and watched years ago, Star Blazers, Battle for the Planets, Voltron, and of course my go-to has always been Robotech. It's just nothing against it, it's just not my thing right now. But yeah, there's so many different pictures online that I was able to reference for this particular character. Okay, so this is the part where I basically just go in and see what I missed, go ahead and clean up any splotchy areas, and like I said, the paint is thinned down, so makes it a lot easier to get good coverage without obscuring any kind of detail. That's what I wanted to why I wanted to use the wet palette for this project right here. Yep, get the inside of his biceps, get different areas that might have been missed. It's just easier to use the lighter coats rather than one thick coat that might obscure any detail. Okay, now getting into the contrast paints. This is Contrast Gilliman's Flesh. This is one of the paints that when you put it on the model, if you use the manufacturer's description of how you use these, the darker colors settle into the recesses and they stay darker, and all the lighter areas are up on your high points. So you basically have it's supposed to be meant as like a one-stop shop for highlighting and shading. It doesn't really work that well like that for me. You can see how dark it is going into those recesses. I've tried to use this as just a one base coat on, say, a Space Marine, and it looks very splotchy, so I stopped using them for that. I primarily use these contrast colors for weathering. I use them for you'll see the orange that I use for his jumpsuit. I use that a lot for rust, but for this model I actually use quite a lot of contrast paints, and I was not displeased with the results. Now, as you go along, they work very well with gravity. So you'll see a lot of the lower areas start to get really thick. They start to pool. That's when you're just gonna take your brush, wick it off on a paper towel, and suck up that extra. Because if it dries like that, you're gonna get this weird coffee staining effect, and it's harder to bring that back after it's dried like that. So right now I'm just using this to get in there and really give some definition to his muscles, and his high spots there will be what I'm going to use for dry brushing there, which is our next bit here. Now for dry brushing, I just there's a Army Painter dry brush. There's a kit that they have out with 3 different size brushes: small, medium, large. This is the large brush. I'm going to be using Cadian Flesh Tone. This is going to be the mid-tone. With dry brushing, you get a damp brush. It's not completely dry, because if you do that, it's going to look very chalky. But you just dampen the brush just a little bit. Get some paint on there, wipe it off with a paper towel. You want to get most of it off of there, and then you just go right over the surface of the figure. Any high spots will collect the pigment that's left in the bristles, and it'll just go ahead and get transferred onto your model. Okay, so as I'm working on this dry brushing right here with the mid-tone, I just want to say as of about halfway through this project, I hit my 100 subscriber mark, which as soon as I hit that, I was just through the roof. I'm so happy about that. Honestly, I didn't think I was going to get that far in the little time that I've had with the channel. So big thank you to all my subscribers. If you are not subscribed, please consider it. It would make me happier than ever. Plus, it's just helping the channel grow. And I don't have a particular thing that, like, I don't do, say, models all the time, or miniatures all the time, or Warhammer all the time. I've got a nice little mix because I have so many different hobbies that I enjoy. So I just wanted to help share that with every one of you. Okay, so getting back to Mr. Goku. Yeah, he's looking pretty badass there, but with the thumbs up. There you go. Now, since this is one of the Citadel layer paints, I am going to put a second coat of dry brushing on him. Yeah, it'd be nice if you could see it, apart from some random drill bit on my cutting mat. There we go. Yeah, my thumb's getting dry brushed there. But yeah, I'm just going over a second coat with this. Just going to get a little bit more color before I go on to the next technique. The thing with dry brushing is you never really want to use it as your last coat of paint, unless you're doing something like dry brushing some skeletons, and they just you start off with like a light tan, and you just start dry brushing like a yellow or white onto them, and there you go. With regular dry brushing like this, it can, even if you have a damp brush, it can give a little bit of a chalkiness to it. So after this, I'm going to go on to some glazing. Alright, so this is where you're going to really bring the colors together. That's about as thin as you want it right there. Although I pretty much just took a lot of the paint off the bristles. Yeah, look at that. There's no paint there, John. Get some more on your brush. There we go. That's the same color we just used for the dry brushing right there. So we're just thinning it down a lot with water and just going over what we just did with the dry brushing. That's going to pull the colors together, and it's going to get rid of any of that chalkiness there. See, if I were to do this right after the Gilliman's Flesh contrast paint, this would have a really choppy look to it. So that's where the first and second coat of dry brushing actually help out. Okay, just not forgetting about the trousers there. Just cleaning those up because pretty soon I'm going to be using another contrast paint to get that jumpsuit cleaned up. And the thing with contrast paints is if you have a lighter color, just like the orange that I'm going to use, you're going to see everything that's underneath that color. So I'm just getting this cleaned up. I don't want any of that Gilliman's or the Bugman's glow on there, just to because you'd see right through the orange and you see the Bugman's glow on it. All right, now for the highlight color on the skin, the glaze has completely dried. I'm using this Cadian flesh tone, and you can see right there it's starting to give us a little bit more definition there. And I do switch over to, this is the medium size Army Painter dry brush, just to get into the neck area and under the chin. This eye, the eyes on here, very hard to even make out. I don't even think they printed. So what I ended up doing later on is I just put his eyebrows in there. Okay, yep, you don't need a whole lot of paint for dry brushing. You just want to be able to get in there and get those raised areas. And just like before, we're glazing with that highlight color. That's just going to clean everything up. Alright, so I mixed those two contrast colors together just to get this weird bluish, blue, dark blue, blue, black, whatever you want to call it. I didn't have a color that specifically looked like that, so I just mixed two colors on mine. Now, okay, here's the Griffon Orange. This is what I'm going to paint his jumpsuit in. And I'm just going straight on the model. I'm not thinning this down with anything, I'm just going straight on. And this is how the contrast paints are designed right here. Just to, you see they're a little bit darker in the creases. It's lighter on your high points. I've noticed with these contrast paints though that I'm not wearing gloves right now to paint this, but even if I were, they rub off very easily. So I do go back eventually and get it cleaned up with more paint where I rubbed it off. There's also a few spots around the ripped areas that did not get enough flesh tone, so I go back there and clean that up as well. Okay, so looking pretty good there. I'm not going to win any awards with him, but pretty happy with that. Yep, I have to clean up some of the flesh tones. Okay, so we're going to go in with Apothecary White just as a base for the hair. The hair on this figure is, I've seen so many different pictures when I was doing research on this. There's some black in there on some pictures, there's more silver, there's different grays. So I'm just going to do my best to give it a nice coat of this color right here and then work with it from there. I'll use some grays. I'm going to use some Pearlescent Medium to give it a shimmer, and eventually I give it an Iridescent Blue in some spots too. Okay, looking pretty good so far. Oh, you know, this is where I turned off the camera and I painted those eyebrows. Yeah, there's no eyes there. That's how it printed right there. So I just went in and since I have one bad eye, I just did it off camera and got real close to it. But a lot of this from now, like from here on in, is just a lot of cleanup. I'm putting some. Oh, I think that was a silver. Yeah, one of the biggest characteristics about this figure is the hair. And just like I said, looking at photographs and watching some video, the hair is always a little bit different in every picture I see. So just wanted to get it as close to right as possible. Here I actually got some on his skin, so I took a wet paintbrush and dabbed that paint to break it up a little bit, then clean it up with a dry cotton swab. Okay, so those boots are still a little choppy there. That was the first coat with the mix of contrast, Talsar Blue and Black Templar. So I'm going to mix up a little bit more, like that, just like the cooking shows. And yeah, just go over and give it a second coat. That's why I said with these contrast paints, they can be very splotchy if you're trying to use them on an entire model or entire figure. And like I said before, I love using them for weathering. I love using that Griffon Orange, that color on his jumpsuit. I love that for rust. But they're not a be-all end-all with paints. They're just another tool in the arsenal. Okay, there is the Pearlescent Medium. And yeah, I don't use all that's in that little container. I end up putting some of that back. But I wanted to put this on his hair as well. Help to give it a little bit of shimmer. This is a medium that you mix with any acrylic paint and it'll give you a like a pearlescent version of that color. Just figured I'd try it on top of the existing paint job. Okay, so while we're working on this right here, just break in here for a couple seconds. If you like the video, please give it a like. If you, like I said before, if you are subscribed, I do thank you so much. If you are not subscribed, please consider it. I mean, like I said before, and the channel's we're growing. There's a lot more to come, and yeah, just make it so much easier for the channel to get noticed. So here we're going to start working on a stylized base. I just took an old Citadel writing stand and glued some cork onto it, and just get a little bit of color on there. I taped it to like a popsicle stick, just so I could take it outside and spray it a little bit. Just do a little bit of highlighting here, give the cork a little bit of a stone appearance. Then get some of that cork cleaned up there, just so it doesn't look like cork, even though it looks like cork. Yeah, I had some different ideas on how I wanted to base him, but I figured it'd look pretty cool, like standing on some rocks over some lava. I'm sure in some of his fights he's probably fought in a volcano or close to one. Okay, got the little Tamiya handy drill. And on the bottoms of his feet, I actually put drain holes for when he was being printed. And I took a clothes hanger. I actually had one wire hanger left in my closet, so I went ahead and used that. Got them at a good angle. And then I'll go ahead and get some epoxy. Yep, there's started working on the paint job there. Started off with a bright orange. And I'm giving the rocks a little bit of some object source lighting right there, so they get the glow from the lava. Then we're adding some yellow to it. Looking pretty good with that. And we're just giving a little bit onto the rocks as well. A little bit of sloppiness there, but I'll clean that up with actually a little bit of white. Usually when you do lava, you're doing starting off with red, orange, yellow, and then you want white for your hottest spots there. All right, so I'm liking the way that looks there. All right, now I didn't think the pearlescent was giving it that shimmer that I wanted, so I went back to the paint rack and I got some of this iridescent blue. This is actually the kind of paint that's used on, it's like a taxidermy paint. We use this a lot for like fish scales. So this right here, you don't see it a whole lot in the camera, but if you look at it in a certain light, it does give you that bluish iridescent shine. And by this time, I'm thinking to myself, you know what, I might just print off one of these guys for myself. And then just going for some black for the base. Gonna get that edge, a Baden black. Yeah, but the employee who did get this gifted to them, yeah, he was pretty happy with it. I think on the bottom of it I signed Out of This World 21, and I put my initials on there too. So, but we are going to get to the final reveal here, and I hope you like it. All right, so we're going to start off the skin tone with Bugman's Glow. This is a paint that I use a lot to start everything, and then from there I just start bringing the colors up in different highlights. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and get some on my wet palette. Oh, what was that? Are you kidding me? I didn't even see that when I was doing the... Oh, come on. I got to notice that somewhere. I'm just thinning down... Oh, there it is. I am so sorry. I hope I don't get flagged by YouTube for that.